People love talking about the apocalypse. Sometimes it's half joking, but also it's dabbled with paranoia. It's like a way to admit that times are uncertain without making a big deal about it. But the proverbial zombie apocalypse as a frame is actually pretty useful. In fitness, it separates the utility of training, what leads to capability, and it reveals what most people do in a gym, which won't save them should the world come crashing down. I think it reveals one of the only questions that matters. Does this body work when it has to? You might think the apocalypse is a meme. It isn't. The CDC and the Department of Defense have both written real preparedness documents using it as the frame. In May 2011, the CDC published Preparedness 101, Zombie Apocalypse. It was a blog post that crashed their server within hours because it went viral. From that, a graphic novel got generated called Preparedness 101 Zombie Pandemic. There were posters, social media campaigns, and a zombie task force t-shirt that was sold by the CDC Foundation. The campaign is still active on their site to this day. Their director, Dr. Ali Khan, summed it up. If you are generally well equipped to deal with a zombie apocalypse, you will be prepared for a hurricane, pandemic, earthquake, or terrorist attack. That same year, U.S. Strategic Command, the command responsible for nuclear deterrence, wrote a 31-page document called Compline 8888, Counter Zombie Dominance. It's a real declassified Pentagon planning document written on April 30th, 2011 by a junior officer training in the DoD's contingency planning system. They used zombies on purpose because if they had practiced with a real country and the document leaked, it would have caused some kind of diplomatic incident. Zombies are uncontroversial. They represent a universal threat. They are an avatar for us to model our behavior against kind of the worst. Two of the most serious institutions in the country chose the apocalypse as their training frame, but it should be no surprise that the people we have in charge of our safety and well-being miss the most important topic when it comes to survival. Here's where it gets interesting. Read every official preparedness document. The CDC, the Pentagon, FEMA, state and local emergency management, they all say the same thing. Water, non-perishable food, hand sanitizers, flashlights, batteries, a radio, important documents in a waterproof bag, first aid supplies, medications, extra clothes, bedding, keys, yada, yada, yada. On top of that, maybe you should have a meeting place outside the home, a meeting place outside the neighborhood, and out-of-state contact. They want you to plan multiple evacuation routes. That's it. That's the framework. In other words, keep doing what you are already doing. Keep being what you already are. Notice what's missing from every single one of these documents. Not one of them tells you anything about the physical capacity of a human being inside the plan. The CDC assumes you'll be stationary in a shelter, eating shelf-stable food. The Pentagon assumes a soldier is already a soldier. Nobody's asking the most basic question. What does the average person need in terms of fitness to survive? Preparedness without physical capacity is just theater. You can have the perfect bug-out bag and still not make it 3 miles on foot. You can know your evacuation route and still be the slowest person on it. I live in Utah, known for a culture of doomsday prepping. It's possible that this is institutional, as the LDS Church has over 100-year history of prepping and warns its members about food storage, and even the church itself has a doomsday preparation. According to leaked accounts and reporting, there are rumors roughly 220,000 cubic feet of space with unused habitation compartments, food and water storage, worship and meeting space inside a 600-foot excavated granite mountain. This is only a few miles from my house, and the data shows that discipline pays off on the lifestyle side. Utah has lower obesity, lower diabetes, lower hypertension than the national average, and practicing Mormons live nearly 10 years longer than their peers. But here's where even the best institutional preparedness in modern America falls into the same trap. Utah also leads the country in antidepressant prescriptions. At one point, it was almost twice the national rate. Nearly 1 in 5 Utah women is on an SSRI. The most prepared population in America built their entire framework around resources. The vault, salt, the silos, the ranches, the year supply, and skipped the same thing every government agency skipped: physical and cognitive capacity. They're solving a storage problem when the limitations for survival is almost always a capacity issue. 30 days into a grid down event, the same medication cascade hits Provo that hits Manhattan. The LDS Church proves the point louder than anyone else. Resources scale. Capacity doesn't unless you train it. The plan only works if the body works, and the official institutions don't audit the body. Here's the part the agency skipped, but the military doesn't. Look at how the most selective fighting forces on Earth choose people. CAG, SEAL teams, SAS, MARSOC, the British Royal Marines, even the French Foreign Legion. They don't issue the gear and then see who survives. They don't hand a man a rifle and a pack and check his bench press. They put him through selection, rigorous physical, mental, and emotional pressure to see who has the capacity to survive. Selection could be the most honest fitness test on Earth. Long ruck marches under load, swimming in cold water, calisthenics for hours on minimal food and minimal rest, land navigation in terrain that punishes you for being heavy, sleep deprivation, stress inoculation, and then, of course, repetition. It's made to feel like it will never end because that is survival. It's a never-ending push against external forces. The selection process answers exactly one question: does this body and this mind work when it has to? They prioritize efficiency, endurance, aerobic capacity, and strength endurance. It's the ability to repeat, the ability to keep going. It's resilience. This is the inversion. Civilian preparedness audits the gear and assumes the body. The military selects the body and then issues the gear. Capacity is the qualifying variable. Resources are quite literally downstream. Every preparedness framework written for civilians flips that backwards, and almost every gym in America trains people in the same backwards direction. They train for the gear, perfect bar, the perfect rack, the perfect machine, and they never ask whether the body could do anything at all without it. The military gets this right because the military has to be right. The cost of being wrong is numbered in bodies. The fitness industry has no such cost, which is why the fitness industry has no such standard. And here's what most people get wrong about the alternative. They hear train for capacity and assume that means becoming an endurance athlete. That's not it either. That's just a different specialization. What actually serves you is general physical preparedness, GPP. Real GPP, not the version CrossFit sold and then abandoned for sport. GPP means addressing deficiencies across 4 channels: aerobic output, aerobic efficiency, muscular output, and muscular efficiency. That's the entire map, addressing personal limitations to unlock general ability. Aerobic output is your top-end engine, how hard you can work for short bursts of cardiovascular demand and recover. Aerobic efficiency is what lets you keep moving for hours without falling apart. Muscular output is the strength and power you actually use, how much force you can produce when you need to. Muscular efficiency is what lets that strength repeat under load on minimal fuel for as long as the situation demands. You don't need to become an endurance athlete. You need to stop being deficient in any one of the 4 channels. The goal isn't to be elite anywhere. The goal is to have no weakness anywhere that matters. That's what the body needs to procure. That's what the body needs to survive density, distance, weight, and time. That's the body the official documents never tell you to build, because the official documents don't know it exists. Let's kill the strength myth directly. Strength does not make you harder to kill. In most scenarios, it just makes you predictable. I know you've seen the ad. It's a lone guy, hoodie up, basement gym that's somehow perfectly lit for a downlight, surrounded by machines designed to isolate one body part at a time. He has the right pre-workout, the right music, right headphones, the right gear. He has the right protein, and he looks determined. Take that same person and put him in an empty room and ask him to be useful. I guarantee he can't do it. Modern strength training has stopped being about building a body that's broadly capable. It's become about specialization. It's party tricks dressed up in hardcore iconography. Now, hardcore is just a marketing word now. It sells overpriced drink mixes that make your skin crawl. This isn't an anti-strength argument. A baseline of strength is required for almost every endurance activity, but chasing maximal numbers outside of sport-specific preparation is a bad definition of functional. It also makes you predictable. If your adversary is heavy and overly muscled, terrain works against him. He always takes the easiest path because elevation costs him too much. He needs the most food. He moves the slowest. He's the easiest to track and the hardest to feed. The strongest humans on Earth are also some of the biggest. Big costs food. Big costs speed and recoverability. If raw strength were the answer, special operations selections would look like a powerlifting meet. They don't. The average male in the elite military selection sits around 185 pounds. That's not by accident. It is the reaction to the demand. Strength is a foundation, not a finish line. What matters in the real world is what the body can repeat, not what it can do once. Now, here's where it goes from fitness to something a little bit darker. There's a declassified report by Dr. Peter Vincent Pry called Life Without Electricity. It's written alongside the EMP Commission's report to Congress titled Assessing the Threat from Electromagnetic Pulse. Pry served on the original EMP Commission. He spent his life studying how modern civilizations fail when the lights go out. His estimates, and former CI Director Jim Woosley's congressional testimony confirming them, say that within roughly 1 year of the sustained grid down event, 2/3 to 90% of the US population would die. But the part that should stop you isn't the 1 year number, it's the timeline before you ever get there. Hospitals have about 96 hours of generator fuel. After that, ICU patients die first. Most homes have 1 to 2 weeks of food. Mass starvation deaths start at the 30-day mark. And then the one nobody talks about, medications. Lack of medications kicks in at 30 days. This isn't a fringe population problem. This is the median in America. Insulin, blood sugar, pills, statins, anticoagulants, antidepressants, antipsychotics, ADHD stimulants, sleep medications, GLP-1 agonist, hormone replacement, testosterone, estrogen, thyroid, immunosuppressants. Look at that list. That list isn't sick people. That list is most adults that you know. The American body isn't a healthy body. It's a chemically managed body, pharmaceutically buffered, built to feel okay because of an input that arrives every morning in a plastic bottle. Cut the supply chain, and the timeline is brutal. The pills stop. The body that was being held together by them starts to come apart, not in years, in weeks. Cognitive decline, mood collapses, sleep disruption, hormonal crashing, inflammatory rebound, and then, of course, withdrawal. And this happens at exactly the moment when physical capacity to find water, food, and safety becomes the only thing keeping you alive. That's the cascade. Withdrawal, cognitive decline, physical decline, inability to procure basics, death by dehydration, infection, or even violence. The pills aren't the problem. The dependency is. The body that requires constant pharmaceutical input to function is the same body that requires constant caloric input to perform. It's the same fragility dressed differently. And here's the part that makes the institutional look at apocalyptic conditions unforgivable. Every one of those medication categories has been studied head-to-head against training and nutrition. The 2024 Cochrane review of 73 randomized trials in roughly 5,000 patients found exercise as effective as antidepressants at reducing depression symptoms, and the American Psychiatric Association now recognizes exercise as a first-line treatment. The Look Ahead trial showed intensive lifestyle intervention produced sustained improvements in blood glucose, blood pressure, lipids, with fewer diabetes medications and lower overall healthcare costs. A study of over 100,000 runners found diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol prevalence all decreased with activity in dose-response fashion, well past guideline levels. The DASH diet, originally published in the New England Journal of Medicine, lowers blood pressure as effectively as a typical antihypertensive drug in 2 weeks. Resistance training increases strength in adults with type 2 diabetes by about 50% and drops A1C by 0.5 percentage point. That data is not subtle. Training and nutrition aren't just adjacent to the medication problem. They are the intervention that medications are trying to imitate. The body that trains is the body that needs fewer pills. The body that needs fewer pills is the body that survives a 30-day supply chain failure. Training and nutrition are the only real preparedness plan anyone needs to focus on, and it's the only one nobody's selling. This is the fragility nobody warns you about when they hand you a kit list and a bug out bag, or what firearm to purchase, or how much ammo you need. Now stack a populated city on top of all of that. A city of 8 million running out of food in 7 days isn't 8 million individual survival problems. It's a view into our fractured community lifestyle. Every gallon of water has 8 million people pricing it through force. Every working pharmacy has a line that becomes a mob. Every defensible building has a queue of armed strangers outside it. The bigger the city, the steeper the competition curve, the faster the breakdown. And this whole rural escape valve people fantasize about, it doesn't work either. There's a Reddit thread that became legendary in survival circles. A Bosnian survivor named Selko posted on Survivalist Board in 2011 about living through the siege of his town during the Bosnian War from 1992 to 1995. The population was about 50 to 60,000, not 8 million. His town descended into absolute chaos in weeks. And he says it directly. The gangs from the cities dispersed outward. They went into the countryside. They hunted loners and small families. The fantasy of running to a cabin and surviving alone runs into the math of millions of armed people doing the exact same thing. What Selko actually learned from a year inside the siege is worth more than 90% of the survival content on the internet because he lived it. His list of what mattered: antibiotics, iodine, anti-tetanus shots, lighters, duct tape, garbage bags, hygiene products, soap, bleach, alcohol, cheap whiskey by the case for trade and disinfection. Cigarettes were currency. Gold was almost useless. He traded gold for ammunition because gold doesn't keep you alive and bullets do. The lone wolf fantasy died fast in his town. Selko says it plainly. There were many times we became sick, and if I was going the lone wolf route, there would have been no one to get me food, scavenge for supplies, or even take the guard duty. Society does not reconstitute into noble post-apocalyptic communities of self-reliant individuals. It splinters into small, opportunistic gangs. The ones who survived in Selko's town survived because they were embedded in a family unit, a trusted group with a network of skill sets. Solo prepping is a marketing aesthetic. It's not a strategy. And this is where training itself stops being just about the body and starts being about something else entirely. Look at how elite performers train. They don't train alone. They never have. Special forces train in teams. Pro athletes train in groups. The best lifters in the world train at gyms with other elite lifters. The best fighters train in camps, and the best climbers belay each other. There is no serious culture of human capacity that produces its best people in isolation. But why? Well, first, they feed off each other's energy, not just competitively, cooperatively. Presence of other capable bodies in a room raises the floor of what's possible. Effort calibrates against effort. You go harder because somebody next to you is going harder, and they go harder because you are. Then both of you reset the standard but upwards. Second, training together is how you actually see who somebody is. You learn more about a person in one hard session than in 100 conversations. You see how they handle discomfort. You see how they treat people who are struggling. You see whether they finish what they start, whether they are honest in the work or miscounting in order to escape the discomfort, or half repping unconsciously to get it all over and done with. You see whether they show up consistently. You see whether they put the work in when nobody's watching them perform it. That's how tight-knit communities get built. Not at brunch, not in group chats, not over shared political opinions. It's in rooms where the work is hard and the people next to you are watching how you handle it. This is what builds trust. And as Selko's experience makes plain, tight communities are the deciding factor. Not the kit, not the bunker, it's the people, the ones you've already seen handle hardship because you've been in the room with them while they did it. The person who trains alone, no matter how hard they train, is missing the layer of preparation that actually decides survival. They have a body, sure. They don't have a network of bodies that they can trust, and under siege, the body alone is not enough. Capacity matters. So does the community you built while you were building your capacity. The honest fitness data on the average American adult is bleak. 3 out of 4 adults, that's 75%, fail to meet the federal physical activity guidelines. And those guidelines are a floor, not a ceiling. 150 minutes a week of moderate activity. That's 22 minutes a day. Most adults can't run a single continuous mile, regardless of pace. The ones who can hover between 9 and 12 minutes. The average untrained man over 25 cannot do a single pull-up. Children today run the mile about 90 seconds slower than children did in 1985. This is the body asked to walk 3 miles to find clean water, or to compete with 8 million other bodies for the same resources. The average American is unprepared because the body itself was never built. Resources are downstream of physical capacity, and the capacity isn't there. The most basic human capacity is the one most people opt out of first: running. Running far, running fast, and running efficiently. No other ability gets you away from a problem the way running does. No other physical trait lets you cross terrain on minimal food. No other skill translates to pure survival like running does. As some zombie movies have explicitly said, the first rule is cardio. But running hurts, so people quit. They move to the elliptical. They build a Venice Beach body split. They optimize for a body that looks like it works and never actually test whether it does. So when your training partner says running hurts their knees and migrates to some cushioned machine, just smile, because that's one more piece of fodder between you and whatever is coming. You do not need to be the fastest, but you can't be the slowest. Every framework handed down from institutions claiming they know the answer to your survival frames the question on what resources are needed. The CDC, the Pentagon, even your church are all recommending just enough supplies to be saved, but no one is coming to save you. You have to save yourself. Your body is the one thing that keeps you prepared for any scenario, not just a hypothetical end-of-the-world zombie apocalypse. Nobody can train it for you. This is what makes fitness such an unusual aspect of life. It is our sole responsibility. It can't be outsourced, and although most misunderstand fitness and lack knowledge of how it is actually fostered and developed, you can overcome most obstacles in fitness by just training and being curious. None of this is to say you can't train for sport or specialize, and I'm not even saying that an apocalypse is likely or even possible, but using it as a framework to see the importance of your own physical capability is invaluable. You're already living in a body that depends on systems you don't control. You're eating food you don't grow, taking medications you can't manufacture, and in a city full of strangers who would see you as food if the lights went out for more than a month. The only honest response to that is to build a body that can do something about it.